any event, tonight you are going to discover that you have a life coach. A life coach in this parsha. It's very in to have life coaches today. People who just teach you how to live. You don't have to go to anyone. It doesn't cost you any money. You don't have to give any explanations to anyone. It's right here. Okay? Just listen carefully and Parshas ChayeiSora, and you'll get it right away. If you want to follow me in the Chumash, that's fine. If not, just listen, and Be'ezrat Hashem, I'll try to make it as clear as possible. So we start. Vahi ChayeiSora, and the years of the mother of Sarah were Me'ah Shana, 100 years, Ve'esrim Shana, and 20 years, Ve'shava Shanim, and 7 years, Shnei ChayeiSora, the years of the life of Mother Sarah. Very cumbersome sentence. Why does the Torah say Mother Sarah was 127 years when she passed away? 100 years, 20 years, 7 years, and these were the years of the life of Mother Sarah. As a matter of fact, it never says that she passed away. It just says, Chai, the life of Mother Sarah where? Doesn't say she passed away. Doesn't say that she died. So let's try to understand. What is the meaning of all this? Life is made up of stages, passages. We pass from one period to another period. Now, on this passage, on this pasuk, Rashi, the great commentator, says, Kulon shovin l'tovo. They were all equally good. That is why the Torah breaks it up. Can that be that all your years are equally good? Don't you have years when you really suffered more? How could it be equally good? So some of our sages say because she believed in God. So if you believe in God, you know that everything that happens to you is from Him. So it's good, even if you don't understand it. Like a little toddler goes to the pediatrician and he gets a shot. It's not good. But in his heart, he knows it's good because Mommy taught me that. So it has to be good because why? Mommy taught him. But I would like to go a little bit differently. Every stage in life has its own ups and downs. Ups and downs. When you are young, you go through very difficult times. When you are 20, you also go through very difficult times. And when you become old, it's still more difficult. So how does it work? The trick is, listen carefully, that from every stage, you should take that which is good and discard the bad. So what is good? What is good when you have a child? Children don't have hidden agendas. Children are truthful. They say what they believe and they mean what they say. No hidden agendas. Forget the bad stuff. Forget the fact that you had teachers or friends who were in camps where you were very unhappy, or you had a difficult situation in your home with your parents. Forget that. It's gone. You learn from it. Made you stronger in a way, if you want. You learn from it. You are not going to repeat those mistakes in your life. But what should you take with you from your childhood? Take with you the ability to talk straight. No hidden agendas. Don't allow the bad stuff to inhibit you, to cripple you, to paralyze you. Next stage in life. Next stage in life is 20. 20 is the time when you are responsible for your life. You say 13, no. 12, no. 20. Because 20 is the time when in front of Hashem we become culpable. Now you are responsible. The trick at this time is that too many young people become what you call meshuggah in Yiddish. They waste their years. They waste their energy on futile things. They give their lives to things that have no purpose and no sense. But when you are young, you should always have visions, dreams, how you are going to change the world. You should be burning. I told you once that when I was young, very young, Israel came into being, the state of Israel. Israel had terrible problems, was attacked on every side. Israel needed money, desperately. Needed money desperately. And I went collecting money for Israel on the subways. In between stops, I would go and make a speech about Israel. And I went around with the pushka. Well, one day the police picked me up. And they asked me, do you have a license for this, young lady? I said, no. I didn't know you need one. Well, you better, what's your name? What's your address? Do your parents know about this? Oh, yeah. So now they contact my mommy and my daddy. I come home, and I overhear my mommy saying to my daddy, was Rebbetzin mit Esther? What are we going to do with Esther? How will she ever find a shidduch? So my father said, sag sich nicht, don't worry. Man will haben a bissel fire by 40. If you want to have a little fire when you are 40 years old, man darf brennen by 16. You have to burn when you are 16. If you want fire at 40, you have to burn when you are 16. So I ask you, this generation, is there anyone who is burning for something? Is there any belief that you have for which you would be willing to give your life? Anything? There's one thing people are ready to burn for: money. Isn't this a tragic generation? So vacuous, so empty, so meaningless, so purposeless, so absolutely vapid. A vacuum cannot be tolerated. Nature doesn't tolerate a vacuum. It has to be filled. This generation lives in a vacuum, and it's filled. You know with what? Stupidities. And not just stupidities, but filth. And not just filth, but degeneracy. People who are pillars. I don't have to go into details. Just listen to the news. What happened in Penn State? I mean, do you understand such a thing? And what happens all over? Our society, it's sick. No one believes in anything except me, and having a good time and making money. So a generation that is young has to have dreams and visions. Because if you don't have a vision when you are young, what will be when you'll be 40 and 50 and 60? And this generation grew up without a vision. So tonight I give you homework when you get home. Give yourself a neshama checkup. What do you believe in? Do you have visions? Do you have dreams? Are you burning for something? Is there something in your life for which you are ready to sacrifice? Something? If you have that, then you'll be able to take that dream into your senior years. You're going to come to 100 with dignity and with blessing, and the years will make no difference because you are going to be as vital and as vigorous in your old age, and much more so. Hashem says, for those who believe in me, I give them wings in their old age. Wings. And they can fly. And it's true. It's true. But our neshamas are anorexic. Our bodies survive without a neshama, and very quickly the bodies wither away into nothingness. And we become empty old people. If you are empty, you are also a little bit senile. lot senile. By senile, I don't mean that you forget things, no. You have no ability to impart wisdom. You have nothing. Nothing. So the years of Mother Sarah were 100 years, 20 years, 7 years. In each stage of life, she learned to remove the good and to leave the bad behind. That's your life coach. Don't allow yourself to be paralyzed. You don't need a therapist. Don't waste your money. Leave it behind. Move on. Move on. And these were the years of Mother Sarah's life. That's how the passage concludes. Meaning what? Don't flagellate yourself. Your mother, your father, your husband, your wife, somebody in your family died. You eat yourself alive. Maybe if I would have done this, maybe if I would have done that. I know, because I did it to myself and my husband died. Maybe if I would have gone to a different hospital. Maybe if I would have taken a different doctor. It says these were the years of the life of Mother Sarah. Meaning, it doesn't matter what you do. You could go to the best hospital, which I did, the best doctor, which I did. These were the years of the person's life. From the moment you are born, it's decided when you will go. Thank God you do not know the date. If you would know the date, you'd go nuts. And I mean that. So thank God you don't know the date. And we are so foolish that we think somehow that we'll escape that date. We don't see ourselves in that situation. Thank God. Because once you see yourself in that situation, it becomes very dark. So, why is this mentioned over here? Why did Mother Sarah's life, why was it summed up over here at the beginning of this parsha? Because at the conclusion of the last parsha, we have the story of the Akedah, the sacrifice of Isaac, and our father Abraham returns to his home and he discovers that Mother Sarah had died. What happened? God tells Abraham, take your son, your one and only son, the one whom you love, Isaac, so it is no mistake about it, it cannot be Ishmael, Isaac, his name, and take him up to the mountain. Take him up. Father Abraham does not want to tell Mother Sarah. He gets up early in the morning with Isaac. And Mother Sarah assumes that Father Abraham and Isaac went to study Torah. Now you have to understand, there's a Satan in the world. God created the Satan. There's only one day in the year when the Satan is powerless. That's on Yom Kippur. Now the Satan, in contrast to what Christian theology would describe, is not a man or a creature with horns, with a tail. He's not a creature. You know who he is? His little voice in your mind. When you want to do a mitzvah, Satan starts talking. You want to daven? The Satan says, you know, what are you going to eat for dinner? In your mind. What are you going to wear tomorrow? In your mind. Oh, I forgot to go shopping for this. I'm not even discussing the dirt that could come into your mind. That I'm not even touching. But even innocent things like that. I am so tired. I don't know how to get through this day. How much more do I have to pray? The Satan. The Satan will never bother you if you are reading some crazy novel, if you are looking at some crazy magazine. When I say crazy, I mean other things really. But you get what I mean. The Satan will never bother you if you do that. The Satan will never bother you if you are on the internet and you, by the click of a mouse, you come to some sites that you should not be coming to. Satan will never bother you. Satan only bothers you when you are doing a mitzvah. Father Abraham is on his way. The Satan comes and talks to him. Are you out of your mind? Listening to this crazy voice in your mind that you should take your son, your one and only son, and bring him up to the altar? All your life, God told you that you are not permitted to have human sacrifices. All your life, you sacrificed everything, your days and your nights, to teach all of civilization. Human sacrifice is wrong. So if you think that God gave you this message, you are hallucinating. It's impossible. Would God make a mockery of his teaching? Don't go. Abraham keeps going. Doesn't let the Satan dissuade him. Then the Satan appears, and this time he puts a great lake in front of him. He can't cross it. The Satan says, look, you wanted to go. It's just impossible. It could run. Abraham keeps going. Terrible weather. The Satan comes. You can't go on in this weather. It's meant to be. You shouldn't go. Don't you get it? Abraham keeps going. Abraham never stops. Because God wanted Abraham to pass this last test, so that you and I should be able to survive the gas chambers and the torture of the centuries. Satan lost. God comes to Abraham. I didn't mean for you to sacrifice your son. God forbid. I would never permit that. I just wanted you to make the proper DNAs for your children. Make a path for them so that you have something to believe in that's bigger than them. Should be ready to sacrifice and give their lives. So now comes one more test. He comes home. His beautiful life partner, Sarah, is dead. And the Satan says, you know who is responsible for this? You. You killed her. It's because you went away with Isaac. And she thought you were going to have a terrible end. You thought you were going to do a terrible thing to Isaac, her son, her one and only son. You killed her. And Abraham, you see in the next passage, goes to bury her, and he weeps. But the weeping is written with an extra small chof. Chof is 20. Extra small. It's in the passage. The letter chof in weeping is extra small. Why? Because chof in weeping is responsible. And he says, Abraham, I accept the responsibility of being a Jew. I accept the responsibility. I will continue to teach Torah. I will continue to do that which I have to do. Fast forward. 1945. The war is over. My father receives the news. No one survived. No one from his entire glorious family. 85 rabbis in Hungary by name of young guys. My father is the only Ben Yachid, the only son to survive from my holy grandfather's house, the great sage. His brothers, his sisters. My Zaidi, my grandfather, my Bobby, my grandmother, my uncles, my cousins, all gone. You know what my father did? He stood up. The tears were flowing from his eyes, I will never forget, into his beautiful beard, which was first growing back because the Germans pulled it out. And he said, in Yiddish, Ich bet nur ein Sach, I ask for only one thing, as alle meine Teures, all my generations sollen bleiben bei Torah, they should all remain loyal to the Torah. All my generations should remain loyal to the Torah. And then my father said, come children, we'll recreate. We are going to give new life to a new generation of Jews. We'll build a yeshiva. And that's when I, as a small child, that's when I understood. I didn't understand it consciously, but it was planted in my soul to create the first Bar Tshuva movement in the world 45 years ago. There were no Bar Tshuva movements. I was the first one because I heard my father's voice. We'll recreate Torah. Who gave this wisdom to us, this ability? Abraham, our father. He comes, Mother Sarah died, and he's Mekadesh Shem Shemaim. He cries with a small chav. Yes, I accept responsibility. And despite it all, I'm continuing as a Jew. Do you understand this? Now, let me ask you something else. This is difficult. Our mother Sarah was on a higher spiritual level than Abraham. Did you know that? She had nevuah, she had greater Ruach HaKodesh. She's the one who said, Lo yirash ben hu'umo hazos im bani. She saw Ishmael, so this Ishmael cannot inherit this land with my son. Prophecy for us today. If only our leadership would have studied this passage. But what I am asking you is, why did Mother Sarah collapse? If Abraham didn't collapse, why did Mother Sarah collapse? What do you think? She's on a higher level. You know why? I never forget this. Life coach. It depends who tells you. It depends who gives you the message. Our father Abraham received the message from God himself. Mother Sarah hears it from the Satan. It depends who tells you. You go to a doctor, you need a shot. Jabs the needle into you. You go to another doctor, you need a shot. And he says, I'm so sorry, sweetheart. I try to be as gentle as I can. It's going to be hurting just for a minute. And the nurse next to you tries to rub your shoulders to make it a little bit easier. Holds your hand. It will be over soon, very soon, sweetheart. Just one little thing more. What is the difference? Same needle. It depends who tells you. So when you have some sort of a conflict with your sister, with your brother, with your mother, with your father, with your neighbor, with your boyfriend or girlfriend or husband and wife, remember, you want to give an argument, not like a Satan. You don't want to be a Satan. You don't want to kill that person. Never forget that. You don't want to be a Satan. And one more message, which is very important to remember. When Abraham, our father, heard the news from God, he heard it in stages. Take your son, your one and only son, Isaac. Take your son, your one and only son, the one whom you love, Isaac. God didn't say take Isaac. Stages. Slowly. God forbid somebody is in a terrible car accident. You have to call up the parents. Hello? This is the police department calling. We have some difficult news that we have to share with you. I just want you to know that your son, he was in a little car accident. A little car accident. Well, what happened to him? A little car accident. The son is not here. It's fatal. But the policeman is so kind. And he says, is there somebody there with you? Could I speak to one of you family members? Wouldn't that be a little bit different? Wouldn't that be a little bit different? In Israel, if God forbid, a soldier is God forbid killed, you know how the news is given? You know how it's given? The highest officers knock on the door and they visit. No phone calls. You don't make a phone call like that. Your son was killed. You can't do that. Do you understand? It's how the message is given. Be careful. Be very careful. So now we move on. And it says, ChayeiSora b'Kiryas Abba, and this is the first time mentioned that she died. Our mother Sarah died in the city of For, and that is Hebron. The city of For, Kiryat Abba, is called Hebron. Today, in the land of Israel, there is a settlement next to Hebron called Kiryat Abba, the city of For. Why is it called the city of For? Because 4 holy patriarchs and matriarchs were buried there. Adam and Eve, Abraham and Sarah, Rebecca and Isaac, Jacob and Leah. Our mother Rachel was buried on the roadside. Because when our people were taken into exile, God wanted that they should have a place where they could pray, because as they were taken, our mother Rachel was weeping for them. And to this day she's crying. It says, Kol berama nishma, a voice is heard in the heavens above. Rachel mevaka abanecha, Rachel is crying, weeping for her children. Minei kolech mi bechi, cease your weeping. Inaich midima, wipe your tears. Yeschal puratech, God says, there is a reward for your labor. Shavu banim ligvulam, your children will come home. Fast forward, 2,000 years later, 1967, for the first time in almost 2,000 years, we blew the shofar at her graveside. Her children came home. But the matriarchs and the patriarchs outside of Rachel are buried in Hebron. Why Hebron? What is Hebron? Hebron was the holiest of cities. There were 3 places that Abraham and that Jacob and David purchased with hard currency. God gave the land to us, but those 3 places were purchased with money as well. Because our father Abraham knew that those 3 places will be fought over, contested by the children of Ishmael and by others. So Hebron was given by God to Abraham, but nevertheless, he decided he wants to purchase it. So there should be no dispute that belongs to us. I'm going to say this quickly because I do not just want to spend time over here. I want us to move on. So I will not look at the passage. I'm just telling you. He wants to buy Hebron. What is the meaning of Hebron? Hebron comes from the word chaver. What's chaver? A friend, right? What is the meaning of chaver? Remember, I always tell you that every word in Hebrew is definitive. What is the meaning of chaver? Lichbor, to connect. Who is a person who is a friend? Someone they could really connect with. Correct? So Hebron is the place of connection. Connection with what? This world and the next world. Anyone who dies, in order to come to the heavens above, to the good place, Garden of Eden, has to go through Hebron and meet the patriarchs. It's a journey through Hebron. Hebron was a place that when the service was going on in the Holy Temple in Yerushalayim, it was seen and heard in Hebron. And the service in Yerushalayim, in the Holy Temple, could not commence until the Kohanim saw that the sun had risen over Hebron. Hebron, the holiest of cities. 1967, for the first time in almost 2,000 years, it's ours. And guess what? Guess what? Our people, Hashem should forgive them. I don't want to mention names who did it. Hashem should forgive him. Gave it away to the children of Yishmael. The Murat HaMachpelah, the cave of Machpelah. They gave them the key. We don't need it. Maybe if we give them this, they'll be happy. Why don't you give them Tel Aviv? The nightclubs. Why not that? Hebron. Hebron. I want you to know, very quickly, I will tell you this. My holy husband, Rav Mishulam Halevi Young Zatzal, on a Friday morning, Erev Shabbos, I took him to the oncologist because Thursday, while I was teaching over here, he went for a checkup, and the doctor told him immediate surgery. Go to an oncologist immediately. Friday morning we go. Oncologist says, you have to check into the hospital. But the rabbi says, he will not perform the surgery on Shabbos. So can't I go home and come in on Saturday night, on Shabbos night? The doctor agrees. But make sure, Rabbi, you don't eat anything because we have to operate. I call all my children, and they all come home for Shabbos. You can imagine what a Shabbos we had. You can imagine. The rabbi goes to shul the next day. Nobody in the shul knows what is going on. Nobody. My rabbi would make a speech, maybe for 10 minutes max. Would never exhaust the audience. Would never be a burden to the audience. The congregation didn't like long speeches. No rabbi who is sensitive should do that. 10 minutes max. He spoke for 45 minutes that Shabbos. And people came over to me. Is something wrong? Because the rabbi was crying in his speech. You know what he spoke about? Hebron. Hebron. We gave away Hebron. Abraham purchased it with hard currency, 400 pieces of international silver. You know what that is? Like billions of dollars today. He didn't have to. Another place that was disputed, was purchased by King David, was the Temple Mount. Need I tell you? Need I tell you? Once again, Hashem gave us back the Temple Mount. What did we do? We gave the keys away. Another place that was disputed and was purchased by our father Jacob for hard currency was Shechem, which the Arabs call Nablus, where Joseph, Hatzadik Yosef, is buried. To this day, nothing has changed. Hebron, but one thing I will tell you, and never forget this. In all these places, our enemies have taken possession. We're taken into exile, not once, but many times. our enemies conquered these lands, conquered these villages, conquered these cities. Now don't you think that they would have destroyed the graves? They would have built some apartment houses, maybe a hotel or something? Wouldn't they have wanted to level all the things that belong to the Jewish people? Not touched. The graves are there, survived thousands of years. Do you understand this? And Hebron is in the headlines again, just like it was in ancient days. Is there any city that you could compare to that? Any place in the world? This itself should make you stop and think. Should tremble. Hebron. The grave of Mother Rachel. We had all kinds of evil people there. People who hated us, who hated our religion, who hated our God, who hated everything that we stood for. And those gravesites are testimony to our existence, to the fact that we are the chosen people of God. No one touched it, not because they loved us, not because they were afraid, because God would not allow it. Do you understand this? And then it says that Abraham eulogized Mother Sarah. And then he cried with that small little chuf. Eulogized. But shouldn't it be that he cried and then he eulogized? Shouldn't that be so? When my holy father, my holy mother, my holy husband passed away, people came to make shiva calls. I tried very hard not to cry, because I told them stories about my parents, about my husband. In the privacy of my room, I cried. I got up from shiva. I started to write my book in honor of my husband. And to this day, you know, everybody knows, I hardly ever make a speech, hardly ever teach without telling something about their holy lives. All my writings, all my books, read it, you'll see. We cry only privately and we move on. Like my father said, I ask only for one thing, Torah must continue. Never forget that. Hebron. So now we move on, and now we come to the Shidduch Parsha. How you find your soulmate. So let's do that now. Go to sentence 1 in chapter 24. Abraham Zakim Baba Yamim. And our father Abraham became old and he came into his days. What do you mean he came into his days? He became old. One came into his days. Came with his days. What does that mean? One day God is going to have a talk with you. And God will say to you, tell me, here is a summation of your life. Every day has a page in this desk. Take out the pages that you are truly proud of and show me. Which day are you truly proud of that you could show me? How many pages would you feel comfortable showing to God? How many? If any. If any. I think most of us would just stand up, and couldn't find a voice because we have nothing to say, nothing to show. So remember that. Abraham came with his days. Every day counted. Every day was precious. Every day had meaning. Now Abraham was the wealthiest of all men in his generation. He was a multi-billionaire. So he calls in the executive of his estate, Eliezer, and makes him swear. What does he make him swear on? Not the money, not the real estate, not the cattle, although he was a multimillionaire. What does he ask him to swear on? You know what? He asked him to swear that he will not take a girl for Isaac. He will not allow Isaac to marry a girl from Canaan, but will go to his homeland, to his birthplace. Now let me ask you, Isaac is already, thank God, an older young man, an older bachelor. He was 37 years old when he ascended the Akedah, the mountain. He could have, this man, 37 years old. Now he's 38 or 39. I don't know exactly how long a period was between the giving, the sacrifice, and right now. 37, 38, 39, I don't know. Don't you think he's responsible? He could find a bride. He's going to listen to this Eliezer. Why doesn't Abraham speak to him directly? Son, I want to tell you, I don't know how long I'm going to live. I want you to know I will be very upset if you, God forbid, marry somebody from the local citizens. I want you to go to my birthplace. That's where you have to find a wife. Simple. Let's have to go to the executive of his estate. Everybody sees my question? You know why? You know why? Because no son or daughter is duty-bound to listen to a mother and a father in regard to a shidduch. You'll be surprised, yes. Intermarriage, God forbid, is the only time when the marriage has to be stopped at all costs. But that is not the opinion of the mother or the father. That is the teaching of who? God himself. That's a command. It's in the Torah. The book of Deuteronomy. You shall not marry with their children. Because that way, God forbid, the nation will come to an end. It's in the Torah. But it's not the mother or the father. If your mother doesn't like the guy that you are going with, he's Jewish, you don't have to listen. You can't be disrespectful. No. You have to be very honorable and say, Mommy, Daddy, I'm sorry if you don't like him. I'm really upset. I just hope that, please God, in time you'll get to like her or get to like him. Everybody follows me? So now Eliezer gets going to look for a shidduch for his master's son. Who is this guy Eliezer, who is the executive of his estate? You are going to be amazed to find out who he is. The first Hitler of the world lived in the period of Abraham. He's the one, this first Hitler of the world, was called Nimrod, and he's the one who placed our father Abraham into a burning furnace, the first crematoria. Our father Abraham had to experience that so that we, the Jewish people, should be able to triumph over the crematorias of every generation. And we did. Hitler is gone, and we are here. So our father Abraham is placed into the crematoria and was at Nimrod's command with the consent of his father. The consent of Abraham's father, Terach. Because Abraham dared to believe in God. It was for his beliefs that he was attacked by Nimrod. Who was Nimrod? He came from the family of Ham. Noah had 3 sons. Ham, who was cursed by Noah. Why was he cursed? Because when they emerged from the ark after the flood, there were 3 sons. Ham, Shem, and Japheth. We come from Shem. That's why those who don't like us are anti-Shemites. Because there is no sh in the English language. You understand? So they are anti-Semites in English, but it's anti-Shemites. You follow? We come from Shem. Ham was cursed by Noah because Ham tried to sodomize his father. Do you understand this? Ham went crazy. Ham said to himself, we have 3 sons. If my father is going to have another son, then the world will be much smaller for me. And he was afraid that his father would have another son, so he castrated, sodomized and castrated his father while his father was drunk. Because when Noah came out of the ark and he saw the devastation, he had a choice. He could have planted wheat, nourishment, food, let's go on, rebuild, recreate, but he planted a vineyard. Why? Because he wanted to escape through alcohol. Sounds familiar? In catastrophe, in difficult times, when things are really tense, what do people do in our generation? Are they going to build? Are they going to recreate? Are they going to choose a path to make the world a better place? Or are they going to become drunk and lose themselves in alcohol, or through pills, or through some stupid games, or through this, or through that? Noah did that. And Shem became very upset. Shem and Japheth became upset that Ham did that. So Shem and Japheth covered the nakedness of their father without looking at him, because you're not allowed to gaze or look at the nakedness of your parent. But Ham castrated the father. You understand? So Noah, when he came to himself, cursed Ham. What was the curse? That he should be a servant for Shem. So Shem should be able to teach him. Eliezer was the prince of the land. He was the son of Nimrod, who came from the family of Ham. Everybody follows me? So Eliezer one day says, if Noah, my great-grandfather, cursed by saying that our descendants, my great-grandfather Ham, and all his descendants should be servants of Shem, there's a reason for that. So he went to Abraham and said, you are the prince of God. Teach me, mold me, recreate me. If I do something wrong, tell me. Give me a patch. Beat me up. Tie me. Don't allow me to take a wrong step. I came here that you should teach me, you should mold me, you should recreate me, reinvent me. Eliezer became the greatest holy person. All his words are written down in this parsha. Whatever he said, every conversation, every word, I don't have time to go through it with you, but every word is written down because every word was holy and perfect. It says, Moshe, he was in charge of his life. What do you mean in charge of your life? You cannot have two drivers of a car, can you? Two people cannot drive the same car, correct? You could take turns, but you can't have two people at the wheel. What does that mean? You are the car. You have to be driving. You can't have two driving the same car, the Satan and the good angels. You cannot have your physical needs, your materialism, your lust, and your neshama driving together. You have to make a choice. You make a choice. Which one will it be? Who is in charge of your car? Who is driving? Who is driving you? That's why when we pray, when we say the Olenu prayer at the conclusion of the service, we say, V'yodato hayom, you shall know today, Vashivosel uvech, you shall know it in your heart. What do you mean? You know it, and then you should know it in your heart? If you know it, isn't that enough? No. Sometimes you know something in your mind, and there is a very, very, very great gap. 8 inches between here and here. It's very difficult to close those inches. Very difficult. You know in your mind, I shouldn't be doing this. I know I shouldn't be losing my temper. I shouldn't be saying this. I shouldn't be. But you do it anyway. Ever see people smoking? Doctors, nurses, standing out in front of the hospital. Smart people, they know the score. Smoking. You know, you shouldn't be smoking. I have done that to a few people. Stop them. And they say to me, what they say? I know. Not telling me anything new. They know it in their minds, but they do not understand it in their hearts. The inches are not closed. A great gap is the greatest gap. So Eliezer went to our father Abraham, shape me, mold me. If I do something wrong, give me a punch. And to this day, our great sages, not today, but in the past, would go and would ask people to give them mussar. Mussar means teach me, give me admonition. What am I doing that is wrong? Tell me. The sages would do that. You understand this? Today, if you criticize somebody, they get what you call in Yiddish, beleidigt, insulted. How dare you say that to me? Everybody's afraid to talk. You know, when they talk behind your back. Isn't she an idiot? Do you see that dress on her? It's awful. When you see her, you know, that dress is so nice. You look so good. Meanwhile, she looks horrible. And I mean that. I have taken this upon myself. Very often people come to me for a shidduch. And I say to them, sweetheart, can I tell you something privately? I tell you only because I'm trying to help you. Should really, and I say, you have to be very careful. Go to a dentist because your breath is not good. When you speak to people, it's a turn-off. Go on a date, it's a turn-off. It's very easy to correct. Obviously, you have some problems. Go to a good dentist and ask for help. Do you think it's appreciated? What do you think? 99% of the times they get insulted. And I say it with so much kindness. And I try to be so careful. So I should have learned already never to say anything, to keep quiet. But my conscience doesn't allow me. But people don't want to hear the emes, the truth. What do you mean my breath is bad? What do you mean? What do you mean this dress doesn't look good on me? What do you mean? How dare you say that to me? Today, everybody just gives everyone else a compliment. Oh, you look so good. Or this, or that. And behind your back, they talk about you. Am I telling the truth? Am I exaggerating? Eliezer went to our father Abraham, teach me, shape me, reinvent me, and became the greatest holy person. Is that amazing? The prince, the son of Nimrod, said, please allow me to be your servant. So now he goes, and he negotiates for the hand of Rebecca. It's a very long story. Unfortunately, we don't have time. But I tell you one thing. You should never forget. Those of you who are looking to make a match. First time, second time, it doesn't matter. Or those of you who know somebody who is trying to get married. Remember the qualities, the criteria of making a match from the Torah. Not my opinion, from the Torah. A good heart. A good heart. Because if the person doesn't have a good heart, all his wisdom, all his looks, overnight will become ugly. His knowledge, his sharp mind will be there to mock you, to twist you. His money, if he doesn't have a good heart, will be there to manipulate you, to control you. His sense of humor, which you thought was great, will be there to ridicule you. If he doesn't have a good heart, everything he has is worth zero. So Abraham was looking for somebody who has an exceptionally good heart. Rebecca passed every test. When you go on a date, you have to look for somebody with a good heart. If your children go on a date, if your friend goes on a date, and they come to you for advice, ask them, does he have a good heart? How do you find that out? If you have your eyes open, you'll find out very easily. But the problem is that most people, oh, he's so cute. I could change him. I mean, sometimes he loses his temper. Sometimes. After marriage, I know I could change him. There's a saying in Yiddish, nachtige Tag. Are you kidding? Are you kidding? You know what is written? Rebbetzin Salanta, who was a genius in ethics, he wrote many Mussar books, said, it's easier to learn the entire Talmud than to change one character trait. So very often, I meet people, they're not Shomei Shabbos. Fine, they become Shomei Shabbos. I could teach them. It never fails. Anybody who comes to this class regularly never fails, but the neshama is impacted. Never fails. You cannot go out of this class indifferently because it's Torah, not because of me. God forbid, I'm not trying to praise myself. Please don't misunderstand. But this book speaks. People say to me, what do you talk about, Rebbetzin? I said, no topic. The book. The book. I will not talk. God will talk. God is talking. So when you study this book, you hear God talking to you. So you could change many things. You could learn how to be Shomei Shabbos. You could learn the entire Torah. You could become an expert in Hebrew. But there's one thing you cannot learn. Character traits. So if there's somebody who is selfish and violates the Sabbath, he becomes Shomei Shabbos, becomes a selfish Shomei Shabbos person. Somebody has a miserable temper, he becomes observant, he becomes an observant, miserably tempered person. You understand what I'm saying, friends? You should never delude yourself. It doesn't go any other way. Unless you're an Eliezer. And you say, shape me, mold me, reinvent me, teach me, and give me a punch when I go wrong. But people don't do that today. I know one person who came to me once, who said to me, Rebbetzin, teach me. If I do something wrong, I really want to become holier, I want to become better. If I make a wrong move, tell me. Very few people say that. Most people say, oh, she doesn't understand me. And they get angry. They get angry, insulted. So people are afraid to talk and just remain silent while everyone is on the path of self-destruction. Do you understand this? That's why our father Abraham said, do not marry my son, do not allow my son to marry with the daughters of Canaan in whose midst I live. Everybody was an idol worshiper. Nobody was a Jew then. But what was the difference? The Canaanites were very mean-spirited, very selfish, very, very arrogant, self-centered, because they were influenced by the culture of Saddam. And Saddam, strangers were killed. It was a capital punishment in Saddam. That's why God destroyed Saddam. To help somebody, to give food to somebody who was not a citizen. So for example, if a stranger came to Saddam, it happened that this stranger suddenly remained alive. They know the stranger would say, who is feeding him? Who is feeding him? Who is breaking the law? Who is feeding him? So they discovered, FBI agents of Saddam went and discovered that the daughter of Lot was the nephew of Abraham. Lot moved to Saddam because it was a very opulent, wealthy place, and he had a very questionable character, Lot, the nephew. He moves to Saddam, and his daughter could not bear to see that a person was starving. So when she thought nobody saw, she brought him food. They catch her, and what they did to her? They stripped her. They dabbed her body with honey, and they allowed her to be eaten by bees. Saddam. So Saddam, that culture, and that's why God destroyed Saddam. To this day, the Dead Sea is in Saddam. You go to Saddam, you could see many different things. I don't have the time to go into it now. But it's all remnants from what Saddam was once. So Abraham, our father says to Eliezer, don't allow my son to marry somebody with these type of character traits. Go back to where I was born, because over there you have more compassion. There are people who still have some compassion there. Not everyone, but some people, okay? It's not a degenerate culture like we have over here. Because you should know, idol worship is an intellectual error. Intellectual error, you made a mistake. Christianity, the Muslim faith, or any religion, an intellectual error. But tell somebody who is willing to listen and he sees the truth, says, oh my God, I want to believe in God. I see this is the truth. That could be changed easily. Some of our converts were the holiest people, including Ruth, the great-grandmother of King David. Rabbi Akiva came from converts, the greatest Torah scholar. Our greatest sages, converts. It's easy. It's fine. Our greatest prophets. You know who was the grandmother, the great-grandmother of our greatest prophets? Rahab, who had been a prostitute, an idol worshiper. She saw the light. She changed her life. It's possible, but you cannot change character traits. You understand? Unless you're an Eliezer who says, teach me, mold me, recreate me. And for that you need an honest Torah life coach. So today there is no such thing. Where are you going to find one? Right here. Come and study. Because if you are willing to understand, if your heart is open, then every time you come to a class, you'll go home with a lesson for your life. Think about the teachings we had today, and you'll discover that you have the lessons of your life. So in conclusion, I just want to tell you the last part, the last passage, and I want to read that to you. Rebecca is on her way to meet Isaac, and as she comes to meet Isaac, they're going on 10 camels, because our father Abraham told Eliezer to make no mistake about it. He has to tell them exactly what his household represents, what Isaac represents. So he sends 10 camels with 10 people on it, so there should be a minyan. 10 camels to remind their family that this is the house where the 10 commandments are kept. When you make a shidduch, you have to be honest and straight. He also tells them of his holdings. No prenup, no such thing. This is what I am, this is what I have. But the girl who comes into my house has to keep the commandments, has to live by them. That's the condition. So Eliezer had to make that very clear, and he did. And they were not very happy about it, Rebecca's family. They liked the money, they liked the idea, but they didn't like the idea that she was going to become like a Rebbetzin today. You know, that religious stuff, they don't like. Sounds familiar? This religious Jew, you like the money, very rich man, very good, you're willing to take it, but not the religious stuff. Correct? Nothing changes. So in any event, now they're on their way. Rebecca says, Elech, I'm going to go. Before she leaves, they have a beautiful ceremony. Her father died. Her family blesses her. And to this day, before the chuppah, at true Jewish weddings, of course, the modern version, here comes the bride, we forgot all the Torah of how to get married. In a Torah marriage, where the Torah is observed, the bride, before the chuppah, sits on a throne, and suddenly the music plays amazingly, and the bridegroom, accompanied by the two fathers, holding him, God forbid one of the fathers or fathers are not there, then the nearest kin or a rabbi holding him. They come over to the bride, and everybody's following. All the men are following. The ladies are standing on the side and behind the bride, all the ladies. And the bridegroom comes over to the bride. He takes her veil and he covers her face. And before he covers her face, he whispers something very personal to her. I cannot tell you what he whispers, but I never really heard it, except when my husband whispered to me. But those are very precious words, words of love and eternal commitment. And then they veil the bride. And then the two fathers bless the bride. And then the rabbis bless the bride. And then, if I am at the wedding, I always like to bless the bride as well. Now we are ready for the chuppah. We learn this teaching from Rebecca, the first wedding. This is the first wedding. So listen to it, it's written over here. Listen to the words, it's so beautiful. Every time I read it, it just goes into my heart. Vayitzi Yitzchok, Lesuach Basoda, and Jacob went forth to pray in the field. You know how to get a shidduch? You know what you have to do? It doesn't matter how gorgeous you are, how smart you are, it won't help you. You know what you have to do? You have to pray. Eliezer prayed, and Eliezer said, "Oh God, send the right one for my son, for my master's son. Do chesed with my master, do chesed with my master's son." Chesed means a favor, charity. The most gorgeous guy in the world, Isaac, the richest, the smartest. Chesed you need for that? Every girl wanted to marry him. The prince, the king. No, you need favors from God, because it's easy enough to get married, but to marry the right one, Prince Charles, Lahavdil, to separate, he could have had anyone. He's the prince. He made a mistake. People make mistakes. So for the right one, you have to pray. So Isaac was praying, and which prayer is the most auspicious for a shidduch? Isaac was praying mincha, the afternoon prayer. Because the afternoon prayer is the most difficult. You know why? Get up in the morning, you want to pray. You go to sleep at night, you want to pray. In the afternoon, you're busy. Take a coffee break, take a prayer break. 10 minutes, that's all. Mincha is so fast. Pray mincha. Pray. And as soon as Eliezer saw the girl, that she might be the right one, you know what he did? You know what he did? He thanked God. You always have to thank God for every good step. For every good step. So now, they are coming, and Rebecca sees this gorgeous, holy man coming to greet them. And what she says, she's sitting on the camel. Vayal, and she looks up, Vatiso Rivko Esinehu, she lifts her eyes, Vatere Esitzok, she sees Isaac, Vatipo Me'al Hagama, and she falls off the camel. She doesn't just get off the camel, she falls off, because she sees him. And what she does, she puts on her veil, and she walks towards him. To this day, the bride puts on the veil, and she walks towards the chassan who's waiting under the chuppah. To this day, the non-Jewish world also learned from us that the bride goes with a veil. We were the first one to teach that. Isn't that amazing? Isn't that amazing? So now I will give you the last passage. I wish I could go through everything, but we don't have time. So listen to this. Vayoveho Yitzchok ohalo. So Isaac brings Rebekah into the tent of his mother Sarah. Mother Sarah is no longer here. Isaac takes her into the tent of his mother Sarah. Vayikach es Rivko, and then he takes Rivka, but he lo isho, then he marries her. Vayehavhu, and he loves her. Vaynochem Yitzchok ach ve'imo, and then Isaac had comfort for his mother. What does that mean? In our century, in our world, he falls in love. He has a relationship. Sometimes, rarely, he marries her. More often than not, they break up. And more often than not, people get a divorce. And even if they don't get a divorce, they live in cold war because it's too expensive to get a divorce, or it's not convenient, or whatever it is. In the days of our Torah, it says he takes her into his mother's tent. That's the first thing. He teaches her. He teaches her. They should be on the same page. Today, man cannot teach women because they are empty. They have nothing to teach. Do you understand this? So the girls teach the man. You know what they teach? How deep your pocket is. I need this. I need that. I want to go to Rome. I want to go to Paris. I want this. I want that. Nobody has anything to share from the soul. No one is burning. No one is on fire. No one. Isaac takes Rebekah into his mother's tent and teaches her. Teaches her. And become spiritual partners. Then he marries her. And only after marriage does it say he loves her. Because true love starts with having a common aim, a common goal. We are on the same page. We have a spiritual connection. A spiritual connection. Animals could also be connected physically. So what? Human being must have a spiritual connection. It's your soulmate. So I always tell all my people who are into shidduchim, who want to get married, do yourself a favor. It's not me. I don't need it. But do yourself a favor. Before you marry her, before you marry him, go on a few dates. Come over here. That should be your date. A Torah class. See what she says. See what he says. See how he reacts. Do you have a spiritual connection? Is he going to be mocking the teaching? Is he going to turn off? Is he going to just ridicule it? Does he believe in anything? Does he believe in anything? Does she believe in anything? Does she believe in anything? If you're not on the same page, if you don't have a spiritual connection, it's no use. And after that, you could get married. After that, you have something, a pillar upon which you could build your home. Then you have a solid relationship. Because you should know, it says, Kol ahava, every love, shetoloi bedovov, that depends on something, will not last. Marry somebody for money, you know what? Money has wings. Flies away, and then what? Marry somebody for looks, looks die, they wither away. Then what? Then what? Spiritual connection is for all eternity. Do you understand this? Then he marries her. If I would have time, but I don't, I would tell you what he taught her. I have to be, please God, next year in Jerusalem, and Mashiach will be here. But in the interim, never forget. Teaching, marriage, then comes love. And then he was comforted for his mother. Comforted for his mother. Because when you have that connection, you understand that your mother continues to live in you, in you, in your home. Like my father said, now Isaac, only one thing I ask, that all the generation should remain with Torah. Just one thing. And that's the comfort